We have a mystery on our hands this week. The scholars in this room are the crew of the mighty ship, the Envisioneer. While in search of the treasure, we got shipwrecked and a piece of our map went missing. We had 4 suspects. Today, we will hear evidence collected against Dr. Smart and shipwright Neff.
There was a shipwreck, and the crew, us, is stranded on an island.
With many injuries to treat, such as broken or sprained arms and ankles.
So we learned how to make splints. First, we will demonstrate the sugar tongue elbow splint. First, you will shape our splint on the uninjured arm, so we do not hurt the injured. First, fold over, so you can see his knuckles. Let the knuckles go free. And then just shape it around, kind of fold it down so the arm is secure. Now, we will gauze his injured arm so it's nice and soft on the inside before we put on the real splint. Now, you'll put on splint and bandage it up. Wrap it around so it's nice and secure. Lastly, before we put on our sling, just make sure it's on. Now when we put on the sling, make sure that the triangle part where it's pointing down is pointing down. Put it under. So it is holding the injured arm up. Just a simple tie behind the neck. And that is a sugar tongue arm or elbow splint. Next, now that you are cured, you can take it off.
I will now demonstrate the figure of 8 ankle splint. First, put it on the bottom of the heel and wrap it across the ankle. And do this with the other side too. And then, put a bandage around it so it does not get injured anymore. And then secure the bandage. And that is the figure of 8 ankle splint. I'm cured!
We did the model lung because the chief steward's lung collapsed, and we had to see the difference between the healthy lung and the collapsed lung. How the model lung works is by when you pull the bottom balloon that represents the diaphragm, the balloon in the inside that represents the lungs expand because the straw that represents a trachea is bringing air into the balloon. And then when there are holes in the balloon or the lung, it won't inflate as much, and that's called neothorax. And that's what a collapsed lung would look like. And then when you have a collapsed lung, they don't expand all the way because they have small holes in there, and that would make you breathe faster, and that is unhealthy because it makes your heart rate go faster, and you might get a heart attack or a stroke.
We had to make the M-bots to find Sidney Young and Robert Neff on the island. To make the M-bots, we attached the motors and the wheels to the chassis. Next, we attached the sensor, the battery pack, and the motherboard to the M-bot. The most challenging part was to attach the wires to the motherboard because we had to bring the wires from the inside of the M-bot to the outside and plug them into the right port.
We had to program the M-bots to cross the island in order to pick up Sidney Young and Robert Neff. We needed to use the M-bots to do so because some parts of the island would be too dangerous for a lone human to track. We made an extremely long code meant to go get the missing crew members. In the code, we needed to make the robots move around, play music, and turn lights on and off.
We needed to build the truss bridges so that the robots could get through the flooded areas of the island and get to the food supply. We built the truss bridges using straws, paper clips, and cardstock, and we used triangles for the foundation of the bridge.
In one of our captain's logs, we learned that a crew member is having heart problems. We decided to dissect a cow's heart to learn more about the heart, not lung. But this is the vena cava, the aorta, the right ventricle, the left ventricle, the right atrium, and the left atrium. So now that we know more about the heart, we were able to figure out what happened to the crew member. It turned out that she had a condition that made her vulnerable to blood clots and heart attacks.
The snakebite was a part of the crime scene investigation, where first mate Sidney Young was bitten by a Malayan pit viper. She had gotten bitten above her left ankle. The snake is hemotoxic. Some reactions of getting bitten by the snake is immediate pain, swelling, bleeding, and tissue damage. Although the snake is hemotoxic, not neurotoxic, which means that first mate Sidney Young was not lying when she says that shipwright Robert Neff has kidnapped her. Dr. Nicholas Smart says she was just having a fuzzy memory because of the snake bite, which was false.
Why we did blood splatters was because there was blood at the crime scene and we didn't know whose blood it was. So we dropped blood from different heights, 12, 30, and 66 inches to see whose blood it was. And then we analyzed it by measuring the diameter of each drop. The results were 30 inches, which is as a hand, and so we know it was Dr. Smart because that's where he was injured.
First, we started off our investigation with powders and one mystery powder. Then we were given vinegar and iodine to test the powders. Some of the reactions were the baking soda bubbling or the sugar dissolving. Then we figured out it was cornstarch. The mystery powder was cornstarch because they had the same reaction to both of the liquids. After that, we suspected that it was Dr. Smart because he had been working with cornstarch earlier that day to heal sunburns.
For CSI, we had to figure out who handed the criminal the piece of the map. So we used cocoa powder and patted it on the fingerprints. We used tape to copy the fingerprints and put it on pieces of paper. There were 3 types of fingerprints: whorls, arches, and loops. We matched the fingerprints to Dr. Smart, and that's how we found out that he was an accomplice with the criminal, who we soon found out was Neff.
Based on all the evidence our STEM group has submitted, we believe that Dr. Smart and Shipwright Neff are guilty of stealing the ancient map.